Hello everyone. Today I want to share a topic that will likely make you reflect. It's about the people you encounter in life, the ones we sometimes don't realize, but they can deeply impact our psychology and emotions. I'm talking about subtle manipulators. People who, when you interact with them, you won't immediately notice, but after the conversation ends, you feel like you've lost a little something. Maybe your confidence, clarity, or even your sense of self. Imagine this. You just had a conversation with someone, maybe a coworker, an old friend, or even a family member. They come across as very friendly, offering sincere compliments and helpful advice. They say things like, "You're really talented, you did a great job." Words that make you feel at ease, happy, and you think they truly care about you. But then, after the conversation ends, as you walk away, you begin to feel ... different. It's not a happy feeling. It's a feeling of emptiness, uncertainty about yourself, and a natural sense of doubt begins to creep in. Have you ever felt this way? This is not a coincidence. It's a sign that you may have just encountered a form of subtle manipulation that many of us don't recognize immediately. These subtle manipulators don't attack you in a blatant or violent way. They don't shout. They don't use harsh words or direct criticism. No, they are very skilled. They will never make you feel hurt right away. But those compliments, those seemingly sincere pieces of advice, gradually plant small seeds of doubt in your mind. And those doubts will accumulate over time, making you feel like you need their validation to confirm your worth. A close friend of mine once shared about a colleague of his, someone who always praised him and offered encouragement. Every time he completed a project, this person would say, "You did really well, but I think you could do even better if you focus more on this detail." At first he thought these were well-meaning suggestions, but over time he realized that he gradually started feeling insecure about his own abilities. These words didn't make him feel proud. They made him feel like he always had to try harder, always needing someone else's approval. For Stoics, this is a major challenge. We learn an important lesson from the philosophy of Epictetus, who once said, "We cannot control what others say about us, but we can absolutely control what we allow into our minds." This is the wisdom that every Stoic needs to master. In everyday life, many people will make you feel like you're not enough, that you need to change or do more to be acknowledged. And in these situations, what should we do? We need to learn to observe from a distance, approach these people as an outsider, viewing them as characters in a story. You're not part of the scene. You don't let them intrude on your sense of self-awareness. You can listen to what they say, but you don't let it affect you. The question is, can you maintain your confidence in situations like this? Can you walk with the belief that your value doesn't depend on the judgment or approval of anyone else? Imagine you're someone striving to build your career. Every time you do something, you encounter someone who always advises you. Try a little harder, you could do better. After a while, you start questioning whether you're good enough, whether you've done enough, whether you could be doing better. Gradually, this erodes your self-confidence, and you no longer see yourself in the same positive light as before. That's when you need to remember one of the core principles of Stoicism. We cannot control what others think or say about us, but we can decide how we respond. If someone's words make you feel hurt or doubt yourself, that's when you need to protect yourself. By recognizing these influences, you can maintain inner peace and not let the words of others infringe upon your worth and self-awareness. So, in life, when you encounter subtle manipulators, don't let them make you lose confidence in yourself. Remember that you are the only one who can determine your worth. You don't need praise or approval from anyone other than yourself. And when you can maintain inner peace and self-awareness, the words of manipulators will no longer shake you. Once you've identified subtle manipulation, the next lesson you need to learn is about fake friendship. These are relationships where you may feel safe for a while, but once you begin to change and grow, you'll realize that they don't truly care about you for who you are. They love you only when you're weak and in need of help. When you become stronger, they'll step back, and it's not because they want you to progress, but because your change makes them feel threatened. Imagine you have a close friend. They're always there for you, offering support during tough times, giving advice that you think is sincere, helping you get through hard periods in life. You feel like you have a solid relationship, someone you can trust. However, when you start changing, maybe you start loving yourself more, becoming successful in your career, or simply gaining more confidence in yourself, you begin to notice something strange. They're not the same as before. Maybe they start avoiding you, or they'll make sarcastic remarks like, "Wow, look at you, you've changed, you're not the same as before." How do you feel when you hear comments like that? Do you feel insecure? Or do you start to feel like you've done something wrong by not being weak like before? Ask ChatGPT. This is not real friendship. True friendship doesn't make you feel small. True friendship will always encourage you to grow, not because they fear you will surpass them, but because they want you to become the best version of yourself. In today's world, we can easily get stuck in relationships based on emotional dependence. Especially when someone changes and becomes stronger, those around them may feel threatened by that change. This is completely normal, but the problem arises when someone starts making you feel guilty for your changes. This forces you to face an important question. Are they really your true friend, or just someone who wants you to stop changing so they feel safer? According to Stoic philosophy, we cannot let the emotions of others control our personal growth. The story of Seneca is a perfect example. He once said, "A true friend is someone who encourages your growth, not someone who tries to keep you in the same place just because they fear your change." Stoics don't seek approval from others. In fact, they understand that personal growth can sometimes make others uncomfortable. But the important thing is that we don't have to stop to please them. Once, I met a very close friend. We had been close throughout college, always overcoming difficulties together. But one day, I realized I was changing. I started reading more, taking courses, and instead of always seeking sympathy, I began pursuing personal growth. However, every time I shared these changes, that friend would say things like, "Oh, now you're different. You seem distant from me." At first I thought it was just a misunderstanding, but over time I realized these comments weren't accidental. They didn't want me to change. They just wanted me to stay the same, not change, and not surpass them. This saddened me because I always thought our friendship was a real connection. But when I thought about what Seneca had said, I understood that true friendship doesn't make you feel small. True friendship is when both people can grow together without feeling threatened. Life is full of relationships that we don't always recognize clearly from the beginning. True friends will encourage you to be stronger, not because they fear you will leave them, but because they want you to become the best version of yourself. So, next time, when you feel someone stepping back as you grow stronger, or when they make you feel guilty for changing, remember that this is not true friendship. A Stoic understands that real friendship doesn't make you feel small, but helps you grow, getting stronger every day. And if someone makes you feel the opposite, it's a sign that you need to stand firm. protect your own growth, and keep moving forward. After discussing fake friendships, I want to continue by sharing another type of person, no less subtle, that we may not immediately notice: the controller. These are people who may not give direct orders or force you, but they use emotions and worry to control your actions. You've probably met people like this, right? Those who, whenever you do something, always show concern and start saying things like, "Are you sure about this decision?" Or, "I'm not sure, I feel comfortable with you doing that. Have you thought about the consequences?" It seems like they're concerned for you, but in reality, they're trying to control what you do and how you feel about your own decisions. Imagine this: you're in a relationship or a job where you feel like you're doing well. But every time you make an important decision, that person will say something like, "I don't think this is a good idea," or "I don't think you can do it." How do you feel at that moment? Do you feel confident and strong in your decision? Or do you start to doubt yourself and your choices? The controller never gives direct orders. They don't force you to do anything. Instead, they subtly make you feel worried and uncertain about what you're doing. This makes you feel like you can't make decisions independently, like you need their approval. And as you begin to feel insecure and doubtful, that very doubt will make you dependent on them. This, I think, is one of the hardest things to recognize in controlling relationships. People often don't realize that someone else's worry isn't always genuine concern, but rather a way to make you feel like you can't make decisions without them. This is why we need to recognize these signs and understand that no one has the right to control your emotions but you. Psychological studies show that when we let others control our emotions and actions, we're living a life without autonomy. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, once said, "Freedom is not just the absence of chains. True freedom is not letting your mind be controlled by another person." And that's a powerful reminder. When you let someone control your decisions by instilling worry, you've lost your inner freedom. One of the core principles of Stoicism is not letting someone else's worry control your emotions. Yes, you can listen to them, but you don't have to let their feelings dictate your actions. Epictetus pointed out that one of the most important things to do in life is ... Ask ChatGPT. The most important principle to maintain autonomy is not being bound by emotions that are not your own. I remember a story shared by a friend about his relationship. He had a partner who always seemed worried whenever he made a big decision. Whenever he wanted to invest in a new project, his partner would remind him of the risks and frequently create a sense that if he failed, they wouldn't be able to handle it. This made him feel like he couldn't make decisions on his own without their approval. Gradually, he realized that these worries weren't genuine concern. They were just a way to control him, to keep him from stepping outside his comfort zone. He decided to stop letting these emotions control him and began making independent decisions, regardless of the worry from others. When you face controllers in life, remember that their worry and advice may not be genuine concern. It could just be a way to keep you trapped in a mental cage, making you feel like you can't do anything without their approval. We need to learn to make our own decisions and take responsibility for our actions without letting anyone control us. As someone who practices Stoic philosophy, you not only maintain inner peace, but also preserve freedom of the soul, not letting anyone, even those closest to you, take away your autonomy. After recognizing manipulators and controllers, I want to continue sharing with you about another type of person that is sometimes very difficult to recognize, but can subtly affect you: the saboteur. The saboteur never confronts you directly, or stops you outright. They don't belittle you or make you fail right away, but they're always there, quietly offering advice filled with doubt whenever you get excited about a new plan or goal. Their words often come wrapped in the guise of concern and sincerity, but in reality, they just make you feel more hesitant and uncertain about your choices. Imagine this: you have a new idea. You're excited, feeling that this is a big opportunity. For yourself, maybe you want to start a business or learn a new skill. When you share this with a friend or colleague, they might respond, I understand, but the market is very competitive now. Are you sure you're prepared enough? Do you think you can do it? These questions aren't encouragement. They are suppressing your enthusiasm. The advice may sound reasonable, but in reality, it just makes you feel doubtful and lose determination. You ask yourself, can I really do this? Am I good enough? And then, instead of moving forward, you start to hesitate. That hesitation is exactly what saboteurs want you to feel. They don't stop you directly, but they always plant seeds of doubt, making you afraid to move forward. These saboteurs are very skilled at undermining your motivation without being blatantly negative. According to a psychological study, this behavior is called indirect skepticism. They don't outright tell you that you can't do something, but instead, they ask questions and offer advice that seems cautious, but in reality, it makes you lose confidence in yourself. According to Stoic philosophy, we need to learn not to be swayed by external opinions, especially those that make us doubt ourselves. Seneca once said, "What doesn't break you will make you stronger," and this strength doesn't come from ignoring words, but from being firm in the face of worthless advice. When you know your goals and trust in yourself, you'll realize that these doubts have no power to stop you. I once had a close friend who always had big, creative ideas for the future. She decided to start a small business project, but every time she shared her idea with others, they would always ask doubt-filled questions. One of them said, "Do you think you're ready for this? How can you succeed when so many others are doing the same thing?" Over time, her confidence was affected. She began to doubt whether she was really capable, but instead of letting those worries control her, she found her motivation again and started acting with more strength. Her small project overcame the initial challenges, and she realized that success doesn't come from listening to others' doubts, but from trusting in herself and acting on what she believes in. Saboteurs are not people who confront you directly, but they can subtly weaken your resolve with advice filled with skepticism. They make you doubt your abilities, and it's these doubts that hold you back. In life, there will always be people like this. However, as a Stoic, you need to be firm in the face of these words. Remember, you are the only one who truly understands. Your path and your decisions must come from trust in yourself, not from the doubts of others. After discussing saboteurs, let's explore another type of person who might subtly drain you without you even realizing it. The energy drainer. People who don't directly harm you, but every time you meet them, it feels like you've just been through an emotional storm. You've probably encountered people like this, those who don't necessarily have a bad attitude or directly harm you, but after spending time with them, you feel exhausted, drained, and sometimes even guilty for feeling that way. These people always have something to share. "I'm having trouble at work. Everything seems to be going wrong for me. I don't know what to do. I feel so alone." At first, you might think you're just being a good friend, listening and comforting them. You feel like you're helping them get through their struggles. But gradually, you realize something strange. Every time you talk to them, you feel like you're carrying a heavy emotional burden. You try to offer advice, but they never change. And as time goes on, it seems like they just want to share their sorrow without any intention of finding a solution. The behavior of the energy drainer is a very subtle form of emotional manipulation. They don't need to force you to do anything. They just pull you into a vicious cycle of empathy and guilt. According to a psychological study, these people are not bad. They just have a lifestyle and mentality that depends on others to feel acknowledged. But that doesn't mean you have to keep being the audience to their suffering. While you might want to help, you may not realize that your emotions are being drained little by little. According to Stoic philosophy, the important thing is to protect your own energy, because if you don't take care of yourself, you won't be able to help anyone else. Epictetus said, "A loving soul isn't the one who carries every burden. It's the one who knows which burdens to carry." I have a longtime friend who's always struggling with work, relationships, and almost never goes a day without complaining about misfortune. At first, I thought it was just a difficult phase in her life, and I tried to be a good friend, always there to listen. But over time, I realized that every time I spoke with her, I felt more tired. Her stories made me feel like I was carrying a huge burden, and I couldn't escape that feeling no matter how hard I tried. Gradually, I realized that she didn't need real help. She needed validation for her suffering. She just wanted me to listen, not help her change. Have you ever felt this way? Do you feel exhausted from listening to endless stories of hardship without seeing any real change? Ask ChatGPT. When you feel drained after a conversation, it could be a sign of the energy drain someone else is creating. According to a psychological study, individuals who constantly share their sorrows without looking for real solutions to their problems can cause what is called energy draining syndrome, making the listener feel emotionally exhausted to deal with these people. You need to learn how to maintain emotional boundaries. Stoicism doesn't ask you to be indifferent, but it teaches that self-care should be your top priority. If you don't protect your own energy and emotions, you won't be able to help anyone else, and eventually, you will feel drained. Seneca once reminded us, compassion does not mean sacrificing yourself for others. The truth is, you cannot give others what you do not have. If you are drained of your energy, you won't have the strength to help others. That's why setting boundaries with these people is necessary, so you don't lose yourself in the process. The energy drainer is not intentionally trying to hurt you, but if you're not careful, you might lose a lot of energy without realizing it. As a Stoic, you need to learn how to balance helping others and protecting your inner peace. If you find yourself in this situation, don't feel guilty when you need to withdraw or set limits. Remember, you have the right to protect your energy and only help when you genuinely can. Don't let this draining take away your strength and inner peace. And finally, after recognizing manipulators, controllers, saboteurs, and energy drainers, we cannot overlook a type of person that is extremely subtle and dangerous: the exploiter of kindness. The exploiter of kindness is someone who appears to be very trustworthy, always there when you need help, but in reality, they see you only as a means to achieve their own goals. They will never directly ask you to do anything, but they subtly make you feel, almost unconsciously, that you owe them something. Imagine this: you have a close friend, someone who always appears when you're in trouble, helping you when you need it. You feel grateful to have them in your life. However, when you face difficulties again, you notice that their help comes with conditions. And gradually, you start feeling like you're using your kindness to repay them for what they've done for you. Over time, you become dependent on them, and when you cannot return their help, you start feeling guilty. The exploiter of kindness always creates an imbalanced dynamic in the relationship. They help you, but only to make you feel that you must repay them. This relationship is no longer genuine assistance. It becomes a transaction that you are unaware of. Every time you help them, they ask for more, and every time you cannot help, you feel that you failed or are unworthy. I remember an old friend of mine. During a difficult time in my life, he was always ready to help me. But gradually, I realized that each time I refused to help him or couldn't meet his request, I felt guilty, as if I was lacking in our friendship. This is not true friendship. It is a subtle exploitation of kindness, making you feel like you owe them an invisible debt, a debt that you can never repay. When you're drawn into a relationship like this, it's a sign of subtle manipulation. According to human behavior studies, those who exploit kindness often create an unbalanced relationship, where one side is always giving help, while the other side feels obligated to return it. This relationship becomes damaged when one side cannot meet the other's demands. Stoic philosophy advises us to distinguish between genuine help and exploitation of kindness. Seneca once said, "There is nothing noble in helping someone when your help does not come from true willingness." This means that when you help someone, it should come from genuine willingness, not from feeling obligated. If you find yourself feeling guilty each time you can't meet someone's request, that's a sign of kindness exploitation. People like this don't help you because they care about you, but because they want you to feel that you owe them, and they can ask you to repay that debt someday, perhaps under conditions that you cannot control. I once had a friend whom I had helped many times over the years. Every time I needed help, she was there, offering advice and emotional support. However, over time, I realized that her help wasn't because she wanted me to improve, but because she wanted me to subconsciously owe her something. Every time I didn't meet her requests, she would act as if I was betraying the help she had given me. This made me very uncomfortable. I realized that this wasn't a true friendship. True friendship is when both people can help each other without any conditions. I decided to stop depending on this relationship and learned to be firm in setting boundaries so that I wouldn't be exploited anymore. Ask ChatGPT. In life, there will be times when we encounter people like this, those who are always there when we face difficulties, but then make us feel like we owe them something, even though their help doesn't always come from a place of sincerity. The exploiter of kindness is not a bad person, but their actions can make you feel like you've lost your autonomy as a Stoic. It is important to offer help voluntarily and with boundaries. Don't let others make you feel like you owe them, and don't let them exploit your kindness. Always remember that emotional freedom and inner peace are precious things that no one has the right to invade. After discussing subtle manipulators, controllers, saboteurs, energy drainers, and those who exploit kindness, we must not overlook another type of person, the indifferent person. These individuals may not be immediately recognizable, but their indifference can cause just as much harm as more blatant negative behaviors. The indifferent person is someone who doesn't show hostility or ill intentions toward you, but they don't truly care about you as a real friend. They don't help when you need it. They don't care about your emotions or needs, and they probably only show up when they need something from you. Sometimes you might think they're just busy, but when you need them the most, you realize they're not there. Imagine this: you're going through a tough time in life, and turn to a close friend to share your feelings and seek comfort. However, instead of listening to you, they just hum along or even seem indifferent. You feel like you're not being cared for or understood. When you start to get stronger, they become more distant, and you start to feel lonely even when they are physically present. The indifferent person doesn't cause harm outright, but their lack of concern and indifference can make you feel abandoned and lonely. When you don't receive care or attention from those you thought were important in your life, it can make you start to question your own worth. This lack of attention creates a sense of being unacknowledged and can cause you to lose faith in the relationship. Stoic philosophy teaches us that we cannot control what others think or do, but we can absolutely control our emotions and how we respond to this indifference. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Accept people for who they are, but don't let them decide how you will feel." You don't need to make everyone like you, but you need to learn how to maintain peace of mind, even when some people don't care about you. A friend of mine once shared a story about his relationship with a close friend he thought he was very close to. Over the years, he had helped this friend countless times when they were struggling. However, when he encountered problems in his work and needed comfort, this friend showed little to no concern, even failing to offer any advice or encouragement. This left him feeling incredibly lonely. Even though the friend was still physically present, he realized that this relationship wasn't true friendship. It was just a connection based on mutual benefit. And when he no longer needed them, they had no reason to stay. The indifferent person doesn't harm you by attacking directly, but their lack of concern can make you feel abandoned and lonely. These people may not have ill intentions, but their indifference makes you question whether you really matter to them. As a Stoic practitioner, you need to understand that inner peace doesn't come from others' approval. You need to learn to accept indifference without letting it shake your own sense of worth. Always remember that you deserve to be loved and cared for, but if someone cannot give you that care, it's not your fault. You have the right to create meaningful relationships, and don't let others' indifference harm you. So, we've explored the types of people who can subtly influence your life and soul, from subtle manipulators, controllers, saboteurs, energy drainers, to those who exploit kindness. These relationships may not always be obvious, but if you can identify and confront them, you'll become stronger, more self-reliant, and maintain inner peace. Remember, no one has the right to decide your worth but you. When you maintain clarity and steadiness in your relationships, not only do you protect yourself, but you also help those around you grow positively. Thank you for watching today's video. I hope these lessons give you the strength to maintain your autonomy and protect your inner peace. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video if you found it helpful. I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson, where we'll continue to explore how to live strongly, freely, and happily through Stoic philosophy. Wishing you a peaceful and empowered day.